Hey guys, and welcome to the October 2020 Energetic Insights. For those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Depika Mystery, and I'm an intuitive guide, energy healer, coach, and a consultant. And since September 2019, I've been sharing these energetic insights on a month by month basis. And it's really geared up for those of you guys that are becoming more and more consciously aware of your intuitive and energetic abilities and are looking for some practical guidance to help you to navigate your way through. If that sounds like you, welcome, you're here at the right place. So, how are you guys doing? How was September for you? Golly gosh, October feels like it's going to be a super intense month. And when I first started tuning into October, the thing that I saw, the first two things that I saw was two white circles. And I'm just like, I'm speaking to my guys and just like, what are these white circles? And then they kind of said that's a full moon. So I'm just like, okay. Then I went and checked it out. And actually, we've got two full moons. And I'm not an astrologer or know much about astrology, but it's probably worth checking out. So if you're resonating with that and wanting to understand a little bit more, what does it mean to have two full moons in a month, go and check it out, and there's lots of information online. But what I really sensed about this is that I feel that we're going to be in a container for October, right? The energies are going to be fast, they're going to be sharp, and that's going to cause us to react. So being mindful is going to be key for us in October. This container that I'm feeling for October is really a space that is being created for us to allow things to be resolved, to be healed, and new things to be created. And generally with these new energies coming in, they tend to feel quite expansive. And October kind of feels like it is expansive, but not in the way that we've experienced before. It's almost like there's a new depth to October. So we're going to be diving in deeper into what needs to be resolved, created, and healed. So before I move on to the themes for October, let's just take a quick recap of September. So in September we had 4 themes, and the 4 themes were: the future is not set, know your energy, create space for integration, curveball, expect the unexpected. And I know a number of you guys have really felt the boomerang effect in September. So if you're resonating with any of those themes, do go back and check it out. As always, a lot of these themes will continue to play out in the coming months. So go ahead and check that out. All right, let's move on to the first theme for October. And the first theme that I got for October was this theme called anger management. And it's really interesting because in October there feels like there's this fiery energy kind of bubbling away, and it's going to be rising, and it feels like it's going to be rising from our soles of our feet up through our body and out, right? So this means that emotions are going to be a little bit more heightened in October, especially anger. So many of us are going to find ourselves projecting this anger onto other people, onto situations, and maybe even projecting it back onto ourselves. The thing is, though, with this energy, it may not seem or appear like it's anger, right? So you're going to experience and feel things that you will not kind of link back to anger, but it's potentially linked back to anger. So it's just being mindful, being aware. So if you're in this month feeling that there's something's been wronged or done wrong to you, or you're feeling this injustice, check in with this, see if there's any anger behind that. Anxiety, see if there's any anger behind that. And there'll be some fear. And the fear and anger have a really interesting relationship. So it's one really good one to kind of explore. And for some of you guys, there's going to feel like there's like, if I'm right, so-and-so is wrong. If so-and-so is wrong, if so-and-so is right, does that mean I'm wrong? So it's almost like you're creating a divide. So it's going inwards and having a look at what aspects within yourself is divided, what aspects feels that it's right, and therefore the other aspect of yourself is wrong. What part of you cannot accept that both aspects could be right? So it will show up in different things. So that will kind of feel like a real deep inner conflict that's going on. And what you find is that you might find yourself beating yourself up a little bit more in this. So what is the purpose behind this anger energy? Why is this coming up to the surface? So one of the things that when I asked that question, what I saw was that it's creating space for this deeper sense of peace and calmness that we all have access to within us. But all of this fiery energy that we have that needs to kind of come out, it's kind of blocking it. So ultimately, what this experience is going to do for us is going to help us to raise our level of self-awareness, and not just our self-awareness, but awareness of what's going on in the wider world, basically. So the key thing for this month when it comes to looking at your anger is to look behind the anger. So I've got a couple of different questions that you can actually run through and use them as tools to kind of explore. So if you're feeling yourself feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling overly emotional, just try these tools out and see what kind of comes up for you. Okay, so the first question is, what is being triggered inside you? What is being triggered inside you? The second one is, where and when do you feel you've been wrong? Where and when do you feel you have been wronged? And by who? And why do you feel that? So this question will just, if you're finding yourself feeling anger, just ask this question. And here's the third one. Where and when in your life have you felt that you've not been heard? Right? Where in your life have you felt that you've not been heard? What trauma / wound does it trigger or link back to? So these two questions are linked. So have a look and ask yourself, where haven't you felt like you've been heard? And then have a look at what the trauma or the wound is behind that, because there's a great space for healing this month as well. And it could be your past lives, or it could be in your present life. So be open to see what kind of comes up for them. And the next thing is, if you find yourself feeling angry, whether it's angry at yourself, angry at somebody else, angry at another situation, one of the things is sometimes we don't recognize we're feeling angry because we're projecting it. So just be mindful. Maybe something that you can do is check in with yourself on a day-to-day basis and say, have I projected anger onto someone or something or on myself today? And that will give you greater clarity to see whether you have experienced that. And then if you have, the next step to kind of go into is like, what are the emotions behind the anger? Is it hopelessness? Is it shame? Is there sadness? Is there guilt? Is there resentment? Is there fear? And really start to explore what are the other emotions that's behind the anger. Because this anger that you might be feeling is just a mechanism to kind of release things that have been sitting dormant for a while that now needs to be released so new space can be created. And then finally, one of the things to kind of sit with is, what is the fear behind the anger? What is the fear behind the anger? Often anger kind of masks the deeper fears that we have within ourselves. So hopefully these tools will kind of give you some more insights of what's going on within yourself if you're finding yourself feeling a little bit unbalanced and overly emotional this month. Okay, so the second theme for this month is called Ego's Full. And this is really about reassessing your narrative and the stories that you tell yourself. And really this is about diving deeper in, and it's almost like diving deeper in, but also at the same time taking a step back and being an observer of your mental dialogue. The stories that you tell yourself and you think that are true. Therefore, no other stories, no other narratives could possibly be true. And this is what this energy is about this month, and really getting you to take a step back and see that there is more than one truth. And part of our journey is to understand that there is more than one truth, rather than being threatened by more than one truth. Because often our ego is like, once we believe something and we believe something to be true, if something else comes that is different from what we think is true, we find ourselves reacting to that. We find ourselves making that other truth wrong so that our truth stays valid. And this is just a this is a mechanism that we have to kind of protect ourselves and to keep ourselves safe. So often we create stories or a narrative for ourselves. So if we've been hurt in the past, what we do is we create a narrative and a story behind that that will then keep us safe. And the thing is, it works. It keeps us safe and it helps us to grow. Yet when we continue to grow, we often outgrow these stories and outgrow these narratives. And these narratives and these stories kind of sit underneath, operating silently. So basically it's unconsciously operating. So in some ways we're still acting out from them, and we're still protecting ourselves from them, but we can't see it anymore. So therefore these narratives become silent. Right? And what's happening this month is those narratives that we've once said that were true for us and they've been working for us is coming up to the surface. Because one of the things is that when we grow, our narratives needs to change and evolve as we grow and evolve. Otherwise, what we're going to find is that we're going to be in conflict with ourselves, or conflict, and that conflict will then play out in the outer world. And the truth is that all because one narrative helped you 10 years ago, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help you today. So the key thing is to have a look at and question your stories and ask yourself, is this true? Is this still valid for me today? And if it is, what is the purpose of it? How does it serve you? And the Ego's Fool's theme is really about there's an opportunity this month to really dive into and explore your stories, your narratives, and allow yourself to kind of open your mind and see that there is more than one truth, right? So therefore, it expands you. And there's a healing component to this, because often what we find is that when there's been a narrative that once helped us 10 years ago and that's been running in the background, like I mentioned before, we end up in conflict. And therefore, if we've told ourselves that we're not good enough, and that's worked because then that's pushed us to be better, to do better, what happens when we're reaching for the next goal or something like that, if there's still that narrative that I'm not good enough, it will pull us back. Because this new narrative now needs, I am good, I am worthy, and that's what the next step needs. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense to you using that kind of example. But basically, remember, there is more than one truth, right? Question your stories and your narratives and ask if they're still valid for you. And if they are, what is the purpose that they serve? And just become conscious of your narratives and what you're telling yourself, and be mindful that all because something is true for you doesn't mean that somebody else's truth or what they believe in or what's true for them is not true. It's a bit mind-boggling, but there's more than one truth available to us. So I hope that one kind of settles in. It's kind of a bit of a sticky one to kind of get your mind around, but it's a really important one for the healing that is available to us this month. Okay, moving on to the third theme, and this one's called Karmic Loops Closing. So one of the reasons why this month feels quite intense is that we're being held in a space where there's an opportunity for some of our old patterns and some of our karmic patterns to be cleared and closed and be done and dusted with and laid to rest. And therefore there's this new space available for us, for some new energy to come in the coming months ahead. So if you're someone so most of this is going to be on a conscious level for some part of it, and some part of it's going to be happening on an unconscious level where you don't have to do anything, you just got to be, right? So on the conscious level, if you know that there's a pattern that you have that you're constantly repeating yourself, what's going to happen this month is it's going to be magnified. So you're going to find yourself being more aware of it. So the trick here is to go through that repetitive pattern of yours with love and kindness, and catch yourself when you find yourself beating yourself up. Because if you continue to beat yourself up when you find you're playing out these patterns, I think most of us know our patterns. We know what's not good for us. We know what we do that we know that we shouldn't be doing, yet we carry on doing, and then we beat ourselves up. If you're stuck in that loop, the key thing is to catch yourself beating yourself up and be kinder and more compassionate to yourself. By doing that, you will find that this pattern dissolves, right? It's not about breaking the pattern per se. It's about being a kind, loving observer to the pattern and allowing yourself to walk through that pattern without beating yourself up. And that's one part of the healing. Sometimes with some of the patterns, we do need to just hardcore and break it and interrupt it and create a brand new pattern. But this one, it feels like this one needs to be watched, and it's a different way of resolving it, to healing it, and to just letting it go. Okay? And in terms of the karmic pattern, this is different. So the karmic pattern kind of feels like all you need to do in this is just hold space. And maybe one of the questions that you can sit with is there something that you might be holding on to, a grudge that you might be holding on to, or a burden or a resentment that you might be holding on to, and ask yourself, is there someone that I need to forgive? Is there something that I need to forgive? And do I need to forgive myself? Or what haven't I forgiven myself for? Or what haven't I forgiven so and so for? Or what haven't I forgiven a situation for? And just start to explore forgiveness. By exploring forgiveness, there's nothing for you to do with releasing these karmic patterns. They will just dissolve. You just got to explore forgiveness and see what kind of comes up. And I think for many of us, what we're going to experience is like a lot of our wounds and traumas are likely to come up to the surface. And this is going to be this is why it's going to be quite intense for us. But if things like that is coming up to the surface, try not to push it down. Just try to expand out and hold space for it. And the thing is, the more that we push down on it, or the more that we avoid it, the harder and intense and tighter it's going to feel around us. And so therefore we're going to feel like we're suffocating. So the thing with this is to remember, it's like music, right? And I don't know if any of you guys have gone to an orchestra, watched an orchestra, and they are playing this classical music, and you know that it's ending, but you don't know when it's going to end. And there's this massive crescendo happening. So it's getting louder and louder and louder. And you know there's going to be a forte peak, but you just don't know when it's going to be. And you don't know when that's going to hit until you feel and hear that stillness and silence, right? So this is what the energy is doing. You're going to find these karmic loops closing. You're going to feel the intensity of it. It's going to get louder and louder, more and more and more intense. And the trick here is that we're going to want to kind of slide back down to loosen that intensity. But it's almost allow that intensity to work its way through you. And as soon as it has done, you know when the forte peak has hit, because you're going to feel this stillness and this beautiful silence as well. So I hope that helps you with the third theme. So let's move on to the fourth and final theme. So this one is it's an interesting one. So we've spoken about masculine and feminine energies before, and this one I've turned it's a balancing dance between the masculine and feminine energies. So as we go through this month, what we're going to find is that there's going to be a very subtle and delicate but very present new feminine energy working its way through us. So it's going to feel like what you might find is there's going to be a passive aggressive dance almost between the masculine and feminine energies, and that might actually play out in passive aggressive behavior to yourself, to someone else, to a situation. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're a woman you're going to be playing out the feminine passive aggressive behavior, or you're a man you're going to be playing out the masculine part of it. It could work in both ways. So this is a way that these energies are going to be balanced itself out, right? So what you guys are going to be seeing, and what I think we're all going to be starting to see, is some of the wounded masculine energies, more of the wounded masculine energies coming up to the surface, stuff that has not been working for us. As what's happening is this feminine energy is coming right underneath it and scooping it up. So it's rising the wounded masculine energy up to the surface. So when it's doing that, it kind of goes back and up and down, up and down. So therefore it creates this back and forth dance within them. So what does this actually look like, and what is it going to feel like? So, and what is it going to bring? So with the feminine energy that is rising, it's going to bring more creativity, more love, more trust, gentleness, compassion, intuition. And really, there's an energy for birthing new ideas and building it up and really nurturing and bringing them to life. So that is what the feminine energy looks like. So what does it look like when it's in this dance? So we're going to find ourselves, we may get a burst of creativity and we're excited by it, but then there might be a part of us, our logical thinking mind, that kind of dampers it down, right? Or we might be feeling this overwhelming feeling of love, and then all of a sudden we are hit with fear coming at us, right? Or we may be trusting in a new process that we're doing, and then there's a part of us that's then trying to control it, right? And then we might just be being in this beautiful, serene space, and then there's an aspect of us that's pushing us and wanting us to do rather than to be, right? Or we're being compassionate and gentle with ourselves, and then we're forcing ourselves, or we're lacking compassion for ourselves because we're thinking we're being lazy, and we're pushing ourselves to, again, do more. And then when it comes to when we're tapping into intuition abilities, what's going to happen is that we're going to find the mental knowledge side of us, the volume is going to go up. So it's going to challenge the intuition. Say, well, how could you possibly know? You don't know that. That can't be possibly true. You don't have any facts. You don't have any experience. How do you know that's true? You know, so you're going to go into this cyclical dance with it. And then when many of us are going to start to feel that we're birthing new ideas, we may feel that there's a part of us that is deconstructing those new ideas, or shooting it down, tearing it down, rather than building it up. So I hope that gives you an idea of what this dance potentially looks like. And the key here is to focus on the creativity. And if something, the creativity, the love, the trust, being in the moment, in your intuition, allowing your intuition to speak, and just nurturing whatever new that it is that is coming through you, and allow yourself to birth the new ideas to life. And if you find anything that's trying to take you away from that, just be with it. Allow the dance to play out. And that's the key thing, knowing that the more that you lean into the creativity, the love, the trust, etc., the more it will kind of come up, and it will guide you, and it will lead you on a brand new path. So I hope that makes sense, and that is it for the October Insights. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do share this with your friends, your family, and your colleagues, and feel free to comment and like below. And if you feel like you might need some help this month, please do come and join us for the October Energetic Alignment Series, which is taking place on the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th of October. And it's going to be at the usual time at 6 p.m. UK time, which is 1 p.m. EST and 10 a.m. PST. So I hope to see as many of you guys there. It's a beautiful, beautiful group. It's very intimate, and just incredible things happen. Like, you guys are, most people that are in there, you discover you're on the same journey, the same path, and it's just a very healing and awakening journey, a 3-week journey. So I hope to see you there. If not, stay tuned, and I will see you next month. All right, take care. Bye for now.